if you choose to not take action, then you're gonna be exactly where you are right now. So where you are right now, if you're not happy, if you don't feel successful, whatever that definition of success might mean to you, if you don't make a change, you're just gonna continue to sit exactly where you are. And so that's the question you have to ask yourself is, do you wanna stay where you are? Because if you've been there for the last 20 years and you're still not happy, you're not.
Welcome to Adapt or Die, real stories behind leaders' biggest pivots. I'm Andreas Pedersen, a former tech CEO that turned into an executive leadership coach. You're hearing the Power Without Permission miniseries. It's the same act as the normal podcast. We have 3 sections to break down, but in this case, we move a little quicker from the challenge to action, all to promote the up and coming book launch I have on September 25. Today, I would like to introduce you to Ryanna Hammond, and she's the founder of All With Heart, where creative writing, mental health, and spirituality meets through books, workshops, and services. Welcome so much to the show, Ryanna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell me, we're going to jump straight into it. Paint me that picture of that pivotal moment in your life, that scene where it's you in your own head, your own thoughts, what are happening, and what was the risk of not adapting?
The first one that comes to my mind is the moment I realized that I didn't want to work a traditional 9 to 5. I had just graduated with my bachelor's in psychology, and I was just really going along with the way the system is run. You know, you go to school, when you graduate, you go to college, when you graduate, you start a job. And so I hadn't really ever thought beyond that type of mindset. And the job I was working at when I first graduated required me to be out of the house before the sun came up, and then I would come home after the sun was already down. And I was on the freeway, and you know how crazy the California traffic is, and so we were bumper to bumper, the sun was down, I'm looking over at the mountainside, and then it, like, hits me that I didn't see the sun all day. And then I was like, "Why am I doing this?" And then it was like I went through almost this, like, existential moment where I realized, like, I don't want this, and I don't wanna work a 9 to 5, and I wanna work for myself. And the reason that was so pivotal is because once you have that realization, now it's about taking action or not taking action. So once you realize like what you want, then it's like, okay, well now what and where do I go? So it was my choice whether or not I wanted to adapt to my wants or to not adapt to them and stay where I was.
Wow. And just because you sort of have that realization that, oh shit, something got to change, how long did it take you before the change actually happened? And what did you need to do to get there?
Yeah. So that was when I was 22. And my wheels kind of were already turning that exact same night where I was like, okay, well, what do I like? Okay, I like fitness. Maybe I want to do something in the fitness world. Okay, well, I like writing. Maybe I want to do something in the writing world. And then I would say the process really started from there. It was just kind of that same night where it at least got my wheels turning, but it wasn't probably I would say like maybe 2 more months until I actually got things off the ground. And what I decided to do was follow the writing path, as you know, like because I'm a writer. I didn't obviously do the fitness path. And it was, I decided to open up like an Instagram account specifically about writing and start sharing my stuff with the world. And then that's another thing that brings up the are you going to adapt or not? Because there's so many things that come to your mind when you're doing something new. You're stepping out of your comfort zone. And I had to make that choice of like, am I going to do this or am I not going to do this? And then you start to battle, as you also talk about in your book, imposter syndrome, where there's so many thoughts that come up, you know, the what if questions. What if nobody likes this? What if I make a fool of myself? What if this? What if that? And so those are the things I had to address to actually step into that new reality. But I did it also while I was 22. So it was within the same year that I started on that journey.
What do you think the cost would have been for you if you today, you're 28, right?
28, yeah.
Yeah. Let's say 6 years later, you're still sitting in LA traffic and missing the sun. What do you think your
Right.
mind and life would have been like then?
Oh my, it definitely wouldn't have been as fruitful or fun as it has become. I think about this a lot actually because it was really writing on that whole first decision that changed my entire life. Because of that decision, it meant that I had gotten a lot more free time. I got to do a lot of solo travel where I also got to do a lot of work on my own mental health. And so none of that would have ever become a reality. Like, I wouldn't have worked on my own issues, my mental struggles. I struggled with depression and anxiety and eating disorders. Like, I don't think I ever would have addressed that. And also it was through my writing that I had even addressed them more, like, as we've talked about before, like, writing, and especially writing your own story, can be super impactful and help you to learn more about yourself, and I wouldn't have ever had the chance to do any of that. So I don't think my mental health would be where it is today. I don't think my happiness would be where it is today, because I think what truly makes you happy in this life is if you're following your own authentic self and really doing what you want, and working in a job you don't want or doing things that don't really speak to you won't lead you to that happiness.
Tell the listeners, how do you build up that courage? Like, what is that? Like, now I just gotta do it. Enough is enough. What is happening with you that makes you go that the alternative is just not an option anymore?
Right. So I think what really helped me was taking it exactly one step at a time. Like, I think we can psych ourselves out if we're like, well, I want this whole new different life. Oh my gosh, I have to do a whole list from A to Z. Then you get overwhelmed. And so you decide to stay where you are. But if you just focus on that very first thing, it makes all the difference in the world. And so for me, it was post one poem online and see how the world reacts to that one poem online. And then once I did that, then it was like, okay, well, let me tell people that I like writing, and then I do that. And each time you do one little thing toward the reality or the life that you want, it's like expanding your comfort zone a little more. Because once you do it, it's like, oh, check mark, like I got that down. And then each time you do something new, you're just making that zone wider and wider. And then at some point it reached such a comfort zone where I was, like, no longer scared to just do anything. Like, I didn't have the imposter syndrome anymore. I didn't have the anxiety of what others people thought, because it was just like my comfort zone is now, like, so far out of my aura of a comfort zone is so massive that it's just like, "Oh, let's do it. Let's do that. Hey, let's try this?"
It's kind of crazy that when we were working on this book, and for the listeners, the book is Power Without Permission. And we're going to get to kind of an interesting aspect soon that of why Rihanna is on this podcast. But she and she's the ghostwriter, and I was telling my stories. And because my English is second language and I'm not the best writer, you have absolutely helped me a lot. But what I wanted to point out is it doesn't matter if you are a CEO, you are young up and coming, whatever it is, the stories throughout the entire book, if you haven't noticed the pattern, Rena and the listeners here, it's micro actions. And even when people are at the top, they're CEOs, they're making millions of dollars a month, when there's something that is new and they have fear about it, they start taking micro actions and the change starts happening to them.
Mhm.
But the people that are stagnant and don't get the change, they're not in the book though, the other. But the people that are not getting what they want and they're anxious, worrying, and all of those things, they're not doing anything about it. Did you
Mhm.
notice the same pattern?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah, especially as we would go through story by story, or I'd hear the women's stories, every single person, it was micro action, micro action, micro action, one little change, because that leads to the one next little change.
So, what would you tell the listeners of what the opportunity cost is and the mindset risk you're going through here if you just don't take any small action today?
If you choose to not take action, then you're gonna be exactly where you are right now. So where you are right now, if you're not happy, if you don't feel successful, whatever that definition of success might mean to you, if you don't make a change, you're just gonna continue to sit exactly where you are. And so that's the question you have to ask yourself is, do you wanna stay where you are? Because if you've been there for the last 20 years and you're still not happy, you're not gonna be happy tomorrow in that exact same spot. And in fact, I think the longer you wait, I think the more it tends to even eat away at you, and the more unhappy you're gonna get, because you know that there's this other thing you wanna do with your life, or, "Hey, I really wanna start that venture. Hey, I really wanna, work on my fitness." Whatever it is in your life you wanna improve, you're actually gonna be happier if you do that thing. And, if you keep saying the what ifs to yourself or just staying where you are, then just know that you'll stay exactly where you are.
And a lot of people struggle because they don't feel worthy or they have insecurity, imposter syndrome. We talk a lot about that in the book on and how they can break that cycle. I think one super interesting framing question was actually from another conversation I had with another of the co-authors. And she said that when people are on their deathbeds, they won't regret the decisions they made, they will regret the things they didn't do. And I think that is so strong, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you can pivot anytime in your life, and you can just take the smallest, least friction or the most frictionless action. Just do something. Action in itself. I mean, it's a whole chapter in the book for that reason.
Mhm. Oh, well, I was gonna say what that makes me think of too is a very common idea in our society is like once you reach 40, you're at that midlife point and it's all down here hill from here. Like that's like a very common saying. And I feel like that is similar to the deathbed thing where people might think, well, if you've reached that spot, well, I can't go do something new now, or well, I can't try that now, or well, if they want to go back and get a new degree, oh, well, I'm already too old. Like those might be thoughts people have, and it makes me sad because it's like that's just like a societal programming that's so not true at all, and to think that just because you're in the middle of your life means that you're gonna have to now, like, kinda rot out the rest of it is silly. Because it's like, well, you can still go do something new and make this whole second half of your life incredible, you know?
The people that die the happiest are the ones that are usually the most curious and that have pivoted the most times in their lives because they have no regrets.
Mhm.
Okay, so you made the choice. You're now becoming a writer. You took your master's. It was smooth sailing from that point. You made a fortune day one, or walk me through the process of how
Yeah,
we got to six
I made
novel,
a
six
fortune.
poetry books.
Yeah, so no, it has definitely not ever been smooth sailing, and I think anyone who says they've just had smooth sailing is probably lying to you. I think anything that you do in your life that's honest and authentic and really from your heart is gonna require grit and hard work, and for me, it's a journey that I'm still on, and what I do to help myself, because 'cause I'm not where I want to be, but I'm on that journey, and, but, like, a few years ago, right now is where I would have wanted to be, It's always about, taking that next step and looking forward, and then also looking back at the past year to see how much you have grown from where you were is a really huge indicator of that growth. So in when I was 22 and I published my first book, that was very exciting. I didn't make a lot of money. The book, was read though in 10 different countries. I had like 1,000 copies, go out into the world. And then, a couple years after that, I was publishing my first novel, and it's like, "Okay, I'm expanding the areas I can write in, that's incredible." And then the year after that, I was starting my own business, and, I got to sell my books at USC at, like, the hugest book festival in the world, the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books, and that was another huge step, working with you and doing stuff for your website or helping you with this book, it was like that was another huge step. And I think when we can reflect on like, okay, well, where was I last year? Oh, I've done more than last year. I've gotten farther. Okay, awesome. And then, okay, now where am I going next? So keeping yourself like balanced and in line with like the past, present, and future, and like reflecting on where you are, seeing where you want to go, and then just making sure you stay on track to get there.
Beautifully said. I have to tell you, I've seen you grow a lot over the last 6 months, and it's not just about having a baby. I know, bad joke, but congratulations again.
Thank you.
But I have seen you grow mentally and knowledge and skill set wise. Have you reflected on that yourself, just in the time I have known you? What a trajectory you're on.
To be honest, I haven't really. I usually just like think of things in a year span, but no, that's actually really good to think about. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Something to reflect and discuss. But I do think your level of confidence and also I mean, you're a confident person, but just the rapidness, how you're moving, and
Mm.
whenever you and I discussed a topic where you, for example, didn't have background knowledge or you haven't had a corporate job, you dare to ask the question. And
Mm.
you ask me every single time, what does that mean? I don't have experience here. Can you tell me more about it? So I think and that's not something you did day one, but you started doing along the way. And I think it's a really good trick to just approach everything with the curiosity of what can I learn. And I mean, now you have worked with another person and you have helped them make their dream become a reality. So if
Right.
you have done one, you can do 10, and if you've done 10, you can do 100, and so on.
Right.
What is your next dream, Rihanna? What is it that you're gonna do next in life?
Let me think. I have a lot. I'm always on to the next venture. I mean, there's many things I wanna do. I would like to do something like this again where I work with either one person or a group of people. I feel like it was a privilege that the first time I got to do this, it was with a group of 13 women because I feel like I would come out of meetings like feeling very fired up, and even though I don't work for a company per se, it kind of felt like that because you're in a community, and that
Mhm.
was really nice, like working with a group of people, telling people stories or helping people with their stories. So I love that, and I definitely wanna continue writing, down that path. I also wanna continue writing my own books and, getting, like, my own books off the ground. My ultimate goal for my own books would be that one day they're in stores, you walk into Target and you just see, like, a section of Ryanna Hammond's books and novels, so that's another dream that I have. And then in All With Heart, there's this aspect that's very much tailored to mental health and, like, mental and spiritual growth, and I would like to get that off the ground, whether it's through, you know, self-development coaching with people, or I also do, like, journaling workshops and where I help people through a specific subject. Like, let's say somebody wants to, stop drinking alcohol, and I can come up with, like, different prompts for them, to journal about to help them, you know, learn more about their mind and those deep things that are hidden in their subconscious. So, I've done a lot of journaling workshops in person before, but I would love to start leading more of those with groups of people to help them, uh, because that was something that really changed my life was journaling. And I know you know from the process of writing your own book and reflecting on your own story, it's very healing, liberating, and also a little, like, squirmish and, like, embarrassing or awkward at times looking at your own story. But overall, very helpful and eye-opening too to, like, look at your life and who you are and where you've come and where you've reached, and, uh, that was so liberating and helpful for me when I was doing that, at 22 with my first book, that it's something else that I really wanna give back to others is, like, lead a journaling workshop, have 20 people there, and, like, they all have some, like, crazy eye-opening moment, in their own journaling process. So those are three future dreams.
I want to emphasize here for the listeners that a person that have a dream and they're really passionate about that dream, they will always take action towards that dream. If you don't have a clear dream and a clear vision lined out, you're going to get stuck. I also want to make a mini promo here. So, if this conversation is landing with you, you can sort of understand what the book Power Without Permission is about. You can go to leadersadapt.com/book. The book is launched on the 25th of September. Let's go into that part of the discussion actually, because I think, Rihanna, when we were writing, every single person that we talked to that was part of this book, they are all very confident, accomplished powerhouses, women leaders. And what ended up happening was that some of them they were taken back almost by in a very positive way, like, wow, there was still more to learn about my own mind.
Mhm.
Walk us through a little bit. You mentioned here journaling, but what can others do in order for them to have a similar experience? And how do you slow down? Because for us, we had to really slow down and feel in order to get the words out.
So, really quick before I answer the question, I wanna say it was really cool to be a part of that process because that was something I had already done, and so to watch other people, like, have those eye-opening moments of just like, "Oh my gosh, this is my story," or like, "Wow, like, I forgot about that thing and how that ended up impacting this, and that led me there," like, it was really, really cool to see that unfold in a lot of people's minds, as someone just getting to witness it happen with other people. But what I would say to others is there's a lot of really cool journaling prompts and ideas that would help them sort of get that same sort of feel, even if they did it in like, obviously it wouldn't be as deep, but if they did it in a 30-minute or a 1 hour journaling session One thing that really impacted me that I did when I was first journaling was make a timeline of my life. And that would be, I guess, the one I'll suggest to anyone who's listening is sit down, set a timer for yourself for an hour, uninterrupted, don't have your phone there, and literally write down the timeline of your life of everything you remember from the moment you were born. Not necessarily everything, but like all the big highlights, you know? So, do you have a memory when you were 2, when you were 3? Like for me, the very first thing I wrote down in mine was my first memory at age 3 was I got stung by a bee. I was having fun in my backyard, running around, laughing, and then just this searing pain in the bottom of my foot. It was the first time I got stung. I'll never forget that moment. And, while that obviously didn't really have any long-term impact, when I did that with myself, there was some really strong memories from my childhood and even from my teenage years where I realized, like, oh, there was, like, some limiting beliefs that came out of those experiences, and, like, that was what taught me the belief that, like, I'm not smart or I'm not creative, and then from there, it was like I was able to help myself break down those limiting beliefs, you know? I couldn't even believe now, like, looking back that there was a time I thought I'm not creative because 'cause I'm like, "What? I'm a creative writer, and, like, I'm one of the most creative people I know." And at one point, I really genuinely believed that about myself, and now it's, like, the furthest thing from my truth, you know? But I wouldn't have ever been able to change that if I wasn't looking, you know, at what's hidden in there, what's in my brain that I don't know is in there.
I wish so many people did that. A lot of people are they don't understand their patterns and their behaviors as adults, and they don't see the connection to when they were kids.
Right.
Okay, so you and I were working on this book. We have had all these amazing stories, and that's part of this mini series where we're interviewing all of the co-authors. And then I made you a co-author.
Mhm.
And I think I don't remember exactly how we got there, but the whole book is about basically giving, as an ally, as a male ally, giving opportunities for other brilliant people that already have a gift and just giving them an opportunity to talk about and showcase their brilliance basically to the world. It's already there. And I remember we had several conversations back and forth. Is it a good thing? Isn't it weird? Most authors don't even say they're working with a ghostwriter. And I could sort of hear it wasn't real. You were not really clicking either. What went through your mind when we were having those conversations?
Yeah, similar to you, I would say it was something that I was, like, back and forth between because it was this, like this weird thing where, like, if it is addressed in the wrong way, it could come across as, like, just like, I don't even I can't even think of the word, I'm having mom brain right now, but, um, like, just, like, awkward or, like, you kinda stumble over it, like, "What?" Like, "Wait, so," like, it might pause a reader, you know, because 'cause they're like they see your name, but then it's like, "And then I helped with this book." So then they're like, "Okay, why is he mentioning," you know? I could just see it maybe getting, like, a little too muddled. But then it was really interesting because I know whenever we'd made that final decision to have me in it, I had been working on your story in chapter 1, and, you know, we would have such long conversations back and forth about your life before coming over here, and, it was like I had this big aha moment because in your story, there's, like, all these different women in your life who you've helped or elevate or, get either, like, maybe, just have sponsored them in some way, like, help them be seen, in a way they otherwise wouldn't get seen in the world or by a company, and, you know, the story with your mom too is a huge part of the book. I won't give spoilers for that because people need to buy the book and read it, but it was like I had this big aha moment where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, I am one of these women, like, I am a woman who he is helping," and I'm like, of course, it would make sense then that I'm in the book where because he wants to elevate me and sponsor me and show my name and, you know, help me to potentially get more work. And it felt even more serendipitous, the fact that I was pregnant writing it, like, having my first child, because obviously having a child adds a whole other layer of, like, finances and everything going on in life, you know? And so then it was, like, for me, a breath of fresh air of, like, this is just really helpful, good exposure that can help me with my finances with my baby, you know? And that's exactly why you do what you do, elevating women, you know, is to help women and, your mom, a single mother I'm not single, but that just was, like, a really cool moment when I had, like, this aha of, like, how I related to your life, and it was like a mirror of what I was writing, and it confirmed that what we were writing about your life is true. You're not putting smoke up people's butts. It's like this is really who you are.
I think it's yeah, and I talk about it in my chapter. And as I was saying that, maybe I need to do an episode on my own podcast where someone else interviews me. But what I talk about in my chapter is my upbringing. Bring was brought up by a very strong single mother who worked daycare. We didn't have worked at a daycare. We didn't have too much money, too much means, and I made a hell of a social journey in my life. But one thing she always taught me from day one, it doesn't matter what we have, as long as we can at least eat and we have clothes on our back, help others. Like you can always help others. And I was also back and forth on this conversation a lot in my own head, but then I thought like, okay, but let's just be vulnerable and open. Like it is what it is. Like I'm not a great writer. I have no ambition to become a great writer. English is my second language. I can tell stories though. So I don't know how many hours and hours and hours of voice recordings you have listened to by now, but I was telling my stories the way I know, which is by speaking. And you transformed them and you elevated sort of the storyline tremendously. I mean, it's my story, but and you captured my voice brilliantly. So it is truly my voice. Everyone who knows me, who have read my chapters of the book says like, yeah, this is so you. Short, precise, to the point. It's just who you are. Like, so you really captured the soul. But then I thought, what do I have to lose to just own up? Then say that I'm not a good writer. Nothing. What can Rihanna gain? She can gain a lot. Like this is her first ghostwriter job, and like you said, maybe this is the catalyst for the next and the next and the next. You have now done it.
Right, right. Another thing too, that I wanna speak on, just praise for you, is like a lot of people, I think their ego could definitely get in the way, where an ego might be like, "Oh, nobody can know," or like, "I can't tell them that I had this writer," and obviously somebody who has a big ego wouldn't be a great leader. And so for you to have your soul so up front and the ego really in the back seat to really be like, how can I elevate the people around me? Or, to be just so transparent and authentic like that is what makes a great leader. And in the book, what we talk about over and over again is how do we be a good leader? How do we like break the imposter syndrome? How do we step up? How do we help others? And so you really are like a living testament to what the book is about. And again, it goes to show that in every way, not just in some aspects of it, like you really are a living truth of what you're presenting in your book, which is makes your book all that much better.
Thank you so much for saying that. Um, for the listeners, again, Power Without Permission, leadersadapt.com/book if you want more information about it. Okay, let's jump into a rapid fire. I will ask all the authors or the same questions. The first question is, what's one belief you have retired?
I can't do it.
Tell me more.
Oh, yeah, sorry. One belief I retired is I can't do it because to believe that you can't do it, whatever it is, go run the marathon or start the business that you wanna do on your own, it stops your life from progressing if you believe you can't do things, and time again, what I've proved to myself is I can do things, and I can pretty much do anything I set my mind to. I started the business, I wrote the book, I pushed out a baby. Like, I've done the things, I've done really hard things, and so, for anyone who might be thinking that to themselves, "I can't do it, I can't do it," know that you can and take one micro action toward whatever it is that you wanna do.
Beautiful. What's a rule you broke to improve the outcomes?
A rule that I broke is caring what other people think about me in the society and abiding by societal standards. I feel like in every single way, the way I live my life is just to break every single standard that exists. from, you have to be married before having a baby. Well, I didn't do that one. Or like, you have to work a 9 to 5. Well, I didn't do that one. And the reason I did, I think, is it was in part to prove to myself that I could and that my life can be good without doing what everyone thinks we have to do. But then also to prove to myself that I don't need to listen to other people's opinions. And once you let go of that, your life gets really good.
Beautiful. What does power without permission mean for you?
Ooh, great question. Power without permission makes me think of just in life itself, you don't need anyone's permission, and you are a powerful being, and anything you set your mind to, you can go do it, and you don't need to ask. You don't need to ask your boss. You don't need to go ask your mom. You don't need to ask just whoever it might be. Like, if you want to go do something, go do it. You're a powerful, powerful person, and don't stop yourself because you think that we live in a society where from very early we have people who are kind of in charge of us. We have our parents, and then at age 5 you have teachers. So it kind of lends to this idea that we always think we need permission from somebody to go do something. So to really take charge of your own life and realize the only person you need to ask permission from is yourself.
Beautiful. What hard conversations are you having with yourself today?
Hard conversations I'm having with myself today are ones about parenting and motherhood. And that's because I have a 3-week-old right now, who hopefully is asleep in the house. Um, when you become a parent, as you know, and you've mentioned this to me before I had her, was you're gonna have a whole other level of love than you've ever known before. And it's like super just indescribable, the love that really is. And with it also comes, a lot of questioning to yourself about how you're gonna parent from just the little tiniest things to the big things, where are they gonna go to school and what are we gonna tell them about friendships or about this or about that? And when I make a mistake, like what's the best way to apologize, and um just thinking like, what are the things I don't wanna carry forward that came from my childhood, or like what are the rules and, you know, things I do wanna implement, and those are definitely, I would say probably the majority of the hard conversations with myself today is just what can I do to be the best mom for her?
You are the best mom for her.
Thank you.
And you're 3 weeks in. The college discussion can happen a few weeks from now.
Right.
What do you think when I say if you don't adapt, you
Die?
okay, what does that mean for you?
If you don't well, I immediately thought of your podcast, obviously. If you don't adapt, you die. Um, what that means is if you don't adapt to your world and wherever you currently are, then you basically die to your authentic self or die to happiness, I think, because life requires us to adapt. The only thing that ever stays the same is change. That's a very common quote. And truly, even if you think about it, it's like even every day we're aging every day. We're growing, we're becoming wiser, hopefully, and learning from our mistakes. And so everything requires adapting, whether you're moving to a new place, getting a new job, like moving to a new house, like having a child. All the time we're never staying the same, You have in one day your life can change like in the blink of an eye, and it always requires us to adapt, meaning and what that means at the heart of it is accepting exactly where you are. That's what adapting is not fighting where you are. And even if you're not in a good space, that means accepting, shoot, I'm not in a good place. Okay, how do I get to a better place? I know that I'm here now, but I don't have to stay here.
I absolutely love the answer. And one of the main reasons we put in the little quote in the beginning of the book, Amor Fati, is learn to love even the negative things that happens to you in your life. And if you learn to do that, they no longer make you stagnant. And instead, you can move forward and turn your scars into muscles.
Mhm.
Where can the listeners find you, Rena?
You can find me on Instagram at Soul Led Wanderess, and online, my website is www.allwithheart.com, and my email is itsallwithheart@gmail.com.
Listeners, I only have one experience working with a ghostwriter. If you're thinking of writing a book, you should definitely reach out to Ryanna. I think you can have heard here today. She is clearly highly intelligent, extremely driven, has a work ethic morale like that I'm not used to seeing always. And yeah, I've been super impressed. I know you and I are going to work a lot more together as well going forward. And again, congratulations on the baby.
Thank
For
you.
everyone else listening, and if you're a leader and you think the stories that we talk about here on Adapt or Die really can transform your mind, they can also transform someone else's mind. How do we make sure that this podcast reach them? You go to Apple Podcast and you leave a 5-star review, and therefore it will be pushed out further to people who need it. And then also, please remember to grab a copy of Power Without Permission. You can read more on the book or about the book on leadersadapt.com/book. Remember, in life, we adapt and thrive or we don't survive. Thank you so much, Ryanna, and thank you all for listening.